بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام عليكم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله على رسول الله. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Let us have the sincere intentions lillahi ta'ala. Today's class should be short. Um, yeah, inshallah. Okay. So we finished talking about the chapter of prayer, the pillar of prayer, alhamdulillah, and now we will talk about zakat. And the first chapter is the items subject to zakat. So the author said it's obligatory for one to pay zakat for having camel, cattle, sheep, and goats. 2, raisins, dates, and staple crops. 3, gold, silver, golden and silver ores, and golden and silver treasure troves. The 4, trade articles, and 5, fitr. This is zakat al-fitr. The explanation. So the term zakat in the Arabic language means to purify and to make things good. So technically, there is a certain amount which is due for having certain articles for one being existing at a certain time. And this will be explained later. So zakat is among the greatest worships of Islam, as is mentioned in the Quran and Hadith. In the Quran, the obligation of zakat is mentioned with the obligation of prayer, as in the verse, which means fulfill the obligations in prayer and the obligations of paying zakat. As for the hadith, it is famous what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith of Jibril, which means Islam is to bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah, to pray the obligatory prayers, to pay zakat, and so on. It's a long hadith. And this hadith is narrated by both Al-Bukhari and Muslim. To refrain from paying zakat is an enormous sin. The Prophet ﷺ said, which means, Allah damn the one who consumed the usurer's gains, that is riba, the one who gives them, and the one who does not pay zakat. And this hadith is narrated by Ibn Habban. Now, the one who does not pay it while believing that it is an obligation, he is an enormous sinner, but not a blasphemer. As for the one who denies the obligation of zakat, he says that there is no such obligation in their religion. He has blasphemed, and this is because he is lying the Quran, he is lying about the Prophet, he is lying the consensus of the nation. Zakat is not due on everything one owns. Rather, it is only due on certain items. So the first item is animals. So concerning animals, zakat is not due on them except camels, cattle, sheep, and goat. So zakat is not due on horses, mules, donkeys, chicken, rabbits, and the like, except if one trades in those animals. Then zakat is due on them because they are considered trade articles, not that because they are the animals that are zakat, from zakat. So as for the fruit, zakat is not due on them except in 2 items: grapes and the pine tree fruits. So there is no such zakat on apricots, apples, pears, bananas, for example. Only the fruit on palm trees and vines. As for the crops, zakat is only due on the staple crops. So staple crops are those that are used to sustain the body at times of necessity, such as famine, but are not used for sustenance at other times. But wait, maybe I messed this up. But are not used for subsistence at other times are not subject to zakat. Okay, so for during the time of famine, people eat food to sustain their bodies. That is not usually food. So this food, there's no zakat due on them, even though it could be like a crop, for example. So what does this mean? So for example, wheat, barley, corn, rice, and lentils, and chickpeas. These are crops, and we eat these currently right now, even if we are not in a famine. So these crops, zakat is due on them. However, a crop that it's not due on is Al-Handal, I think that's what it says, which is a bitter plant. So you wouldn't eat this except at the time of famine. And this is why it wouldn't be considered an item of zakat. So food that you only eat during the time of famine to nourish and sustain yourself, that food there is no zakat on it, but food that you eat other times than that outside of famine, there is zakat due on those. Um, Likewise, the third category is gold and silver. And zakat is due on gold and silver whether it is a currency or not. So as for the types of currency, whether it is made out of copper, paper, steel, zakat is not due on them. Now, if this currency is used for trade articles, then zakat is due on them as trade articles, not because they are currency. This means if someone owns currency, which is not gold or silver, and he's not using it in trading, and he keeps this currency for a complete year, then zakat is not due on that currency because it is not golden currency and it's not silver currency. And this is what Imam Shafi'i said and what Imam Malik said. Now, Imam Abu Hanifa said it's an obligation to pay the zakat on other currencies, just as it is obligation to pay zakat on gold and silver currency. He said because the people use them to pay for what they buy, just as they use silver and coin or gold currencies. So the one who follows Imam Malik and Shafi'i, they are safe. As for the one who follows Imam Abu Hanifa in this case, he's more cautious about this matter. So let me bring you attention to something. In today's time, people, they put their money in banks. And this is not permissible according to Imam Shafi'i. So those who put their money in banks, they have to follow the Hanafi school and need to pay attention to that. By putting your money in the bank, you are bounded by Imam Hanafi. So he or she needs to pay zakat for that money that he or she put in the bank if all the conditions for paying zakat are satisfied. One cannot say in this case, I don't want to pay zakat because this is not gold or silver money, so I will follow the Imam Shafi'i or Maliki. Because actually, he or she is following, they're not following Imam Shafi'i in this case. One is following Imam Hanifa because they have their money in the bank and needs to pay zakat on that. Again, that's if the conditions are satisfied, and we'll talk about what those conditions are later. So be careful of that. So even if this is not trade money, it's not used in trade, one needs to pay zakat on it if 1 year lapsed on that money in the bank. So likewise, it's an obligation to pay zakat on the gold and silver that one extracts from the ground. So this means the one that takes gold and silver from the mines. This is after separating the gold or silver from other materials or minerals or other impurities. Also, zakat is due in treasure troves. This means if one finds a treasure of gold or silver which was buried before the revelation of the Prophet ﷺ by non-Muslims, then zakat is due on one of them. Now, if the treasure is not gold or silver, then zakat is not due on them. Now, as for what one finds in his own land or any land owned by another person, then there is a specific judgment. So when we say if one finds gold and silver buried before the revelation of the Prophet ﷺ, it means by that if one finds that in a land which is not owned by someone. So if the land is owned, then this has another judgment. So for example, if I find a piece of land I own, a treasure which is buried before the revelation to the Prophet ﷺ, I do not take it and I do not pay zakat on it. If I did not bury it, which is the case, I did not do, then there is a possibility that it was buried by the previous owner of that land. So it is his. If it was not buried by that previous owner, there's a possibility that it was buried by the owner before him. So I have to check all that until I reach the person who owns this land. And this land was not owned by anyone. At, and then at one stage, this person owned it. So a Muslim came and he, for example, he built a house on it and put a fence around it. So one way or another, he made it his. In this case, this man owns what contains in the treasure. So by consensus, this treasure would be his. So this is why if someone finds a treasure trove in an unknown piece of land, religiously he is not allowed to take it. He needs to check who it belongs to. Likewise, if one finds a treasure which was buried after the revelation to the Prophet ﷺ, then specific judgments apply to that case too. So there is a possibility that a Muslim a long time ago buried this treasure. So whenever this possibility stands, this treasure would have the same judgment as lost and found. So we will talk about this judgment later. So in brief, what we are talking about here is the gold and silver buried before it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in a land which was not owned by anyone. If one finds such an item, then religiously he is obligated to pay zakat for that amount that he finds. So the fourth item is the trade articles. Zakat is also due on trade articles, even if those articles were not subjugated on zakat if they were not used for trade. For example, land, houses, sugar, salt, horses, cars, anything. If one trades in such articles, then zakat is due on him because he trades on them. So as for the house that one owns, not to trade in it, zakat is not due on it. Even if one owns 1,000 houses and has the intention to rent those houses and benefit from that, zakat is not due in those houses because those houses are not trade articles. One owns them to rent them or just to live in one house or another, right? So zakat is not due on such a person. Likewise, if someone owns many cars and he does not have the intention to trade in those cars, rather he owns them to rent them, zakat is not due on those cars. Also, if one buys a shop to sell items in it and not to sell the shop later, not to trade in it, then zakat is not due on the shop. It is due on the items sold in that shop, but not the shop itself. So also, likewise, zakat is not due in the factory. It, it is due in the items produced by that factory, but not the factory itself, except if one buys the factory to trade in it, of course. So some ignorant people claim that zakat is due on pieces of land that one owns, not to trade in them, not to trade them, or if he owns more than one house, or if he owns outlets or something like that. Their claim is not supported by any religious proof. Usually what happens is that those people who are ignorant and someone comes and he asks them, like, I own this land and I have this thing, and is zakat due on them? Such people, they would immediately think that the amount of money that this person would pay if he does pay zakat on these things, or that could be just out of ignorance, so they say yes. And they hope that this person will pay them to distribute his money, and then they would use this money for whatever they want to use it. And they take from it for themselves or for their own charities or for their own organizations, whatever. So they rush and tell this person, yes, the zakat is due on you in these items, and that item, while it's really, there's no such thing in the religion. So these people are enormous sinners. And even if they know the religious judgment and then they reject this judgment, then they blaspheme by that. So as for the jewelry made out of gold and silver, is zakat due on them? Here, the jewelry can be permissible, haram, and permissible but disliked. So if the jewelry is haram, like for a man to wear golden rings or golden watches, golden or silver, both for men, are haram except by the ring, which the silver of the ring that is silver. Then this is haram jewelry because in this case, the zakat is due on it. So this jewelry is haram, zakat is due on it. So this is again the golden and silver jewelry except the silver ring. So haram here, haram jewelry means that it's haram for one to wear them. Like it's haram for a man to wear them. And this does not mean like stolen because this means that this person does not own it. Also, zakat is due on this jewelry if it's disliked for one to wear. So again, if it's there's a situation where men are wearing something that is disliked, then zakat is due on it. Now, as in the third case, if wearing such jewelry is permissible without being sunnah and without being disliked, so there's no reward or punishment in wearing it or leaving out wearing it. In this case, there's two sayings among the scholars about it. So even Shafi'i had two sayings about it. So one time he said that zakat is due on it, another time he said it is not due on it. The one who follow any of these sayings is safe in the hereafter. He is not blamed. Even among the companions, some of them did not pay zakat in this permissible jewelry. Now, what is more cautious is to pay for it because Abu Hanifa said that zakat is due on it. So the last article is zakat al-fitr. And this is not paid for a certain amount that one owns. Rather, the zakat is paid because one is alive at the end of the month of Ramadan and at the beginning of Shawwal. So we'll talk about this in detail, inshallah. And here, these are different types of zakat. So we have the questions at the end of session here. So in the Hanafi school, if someone wants to pay zakat in paper money, how does he pay it and when is it due? So if a certain amount of money stays in one's ownership for a complete lunar year, and this amount has value of 200 dirhams of silver, then zakat would be due in that amount. Zakat is 2.5%. So 200 dirhams of silver is a little bit less than 600 grams of silver. We will go more into detail, inshallah, about the specifics later. Another question or statement here is that if one buys something to sell it later for a profit. So for one time, this is not considered trade. Like this is not trading. So selling something for a profit is not considered a trade. So for example, if I see a car and I notice that the owner wants to sell it for a good price, so I immediately think, okay, let me buy it and then I'll sell it for a profit for one time. This is not considered trade religiously. Why? Because I do not have the intention to sell it again, get the money, then buy something else, then sell it for a profit, then buy something else, and then sell it and then get it for a profit. Trade is when you buy something to sell it, and then with that money to buy something else and then sell it, and then buy something else and keep selling it. Like that. Then this is considered a trade item. But if I check 100 houses and I think that I can buy them with a good price, and then I sell them later for like one time without having the intention to buy again, with that money that I acquired to sell more houses, then this is not considered trading. So zakat is not due on those items. There's a question here is if I stop trading, for example, after 8 months, I feel that I do not want to keep continuing in this business, so I stop trading and change my intention about this money, then zakat is not due on you in those items because you are not trade items anymore. A whole year did not pass. Okay, and this is all I have for today. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but I kind of whenever we review the recording and like find a way to send you a synopsis again because I want to really make sure I kind of got what you meant. So maybe I'll
Yeah.
just send you a message afterwards, just letting you know if I have questions, inshallah. Because um I feel like I miss a lot of the details and I just feel like I need to listen to it multiple times to make sure I actually understand.
Um, uh, there's a I don't actually start really understanding it until I've actually do the same thing. Like I go back and reread it
Okay.
over and over again. And there's also when you try to memorize the details, it's really, really
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
I think I
Okay. I
sent
think
you the
I'm gonna try to do
questionnaire.
that.
I sent you the
Yeah,
questionnaire, right?
okay. I think I need to download it. I didn't try because I always have memory issues on my phone. But I'm gonna try to do that today, inshallah. Today or by Tuesday night. We'll see, inshallah.
Yeah.
Because I wanna start maintaining it. It's like a lot of information given. Now I wanna remember it. Like I feel like it some bits and pieces I remember, bits and pieces I don't. So I think I'm gonna try to just hop on board with that plan, inshallah.
Yeah,
Because I think it's time. It's a good time for me to do that.
that's
So
really made the difference. It made a difference.
really, okay, okay,
Yeah.
I'm so happy. Okay, so I'll do that, inshallah. On Tuesday, and I'll begin. Um, because I want to keep up with what you're teaching, and it's like, mashallah, it would be really beneficial if I was able to memorize that. So I'll do that, inshallah.
Okay.
Barakallahu fiki.
Well, Fiki, let me know if you have any questions regarding that.
Okay, I will. I'll let you know for sure, inshallah.
Okay. Okay, let's say تهليل الصلاة على النبي. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم.
وفيكم وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.